Hello and welcome to the February Council meeting for Corangamite Shire. I'm Mayor Kate Macon and I'll just introduce the rest of the people around the table today. We have Deputy Mayor Laurie Hickey, Councillor Ruth Constrain, Councillor Joe Beard, Councillor Jamie Vogels, Councillor Geraldine Canady and Councillor Nick Cole. And the directors and managers that are around the table tonight too, I have Jared Woff, Acting Director of Works and Services. And I'd like to welcome back to the table Justine Lindley, Director of Sustainability Development, who's been on leave for a couple of weeks, so thank you. Aaron Moyne, Manager of Planning and Building. And then we go across to David Harrington, Director of Corporate and Community Services, and Katie McMahon, Manager of Economy and Prosperity. And last but not least, I have my CEO, Mr. David Ray, beside me as well. So moving on, we'll have the prayer. We ask for guidance and blessing on this council. May the true needs and well-being of our communities be our concern. Help us who serve as leaders to remember that all our decisions are made in the best interest of our people, culture and the environment of the Corangamite Shire. Amen. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land around Corangamite Shire and the Eastern Maar and the Wadawurrung people. We pay our respects to all Aboriginal elders and peoples past and present. Mr. CEO, is there any apologies tonight?
Madam Mayor, there are no apologies this evening.
And do we have any conflicts of interest?
Madam Mayor, there are no conflicts of interest.
Excellent. Moving on to confirmation of minutes of the 30th of January. Do I have a mover for those minutes, please? Councillor Nick Cole, do I have a seconder? Councillor Laurie Hickey. All those in favour? Passed. Thank you. We have a deputation tonight from Mr. Darryl Wiggins on planning permit application PP 2023/031. Darryl, if you'd like to come to the lectern and have your say, that would be great. Thank you.
Hi all. Thanks for going to the trouble of considering our application. Helen and I are grateful, and thanks for coming to our property the other day to have a look around and help you decide. As you know, I've retired from farming, but the land is still rented as I still own the land. As I've retired, it makes sense for me to sell the land so that I can fully retire. We would love to stay in the house if we can. If you approve the subdivision, I can fully retire. If the application is refused, we will lose the sale and we'll have to find a different buyer in order to fully retire. It makes sense for my tenant to buy the land, but they don't want our house, but we do. So it would be a real win-win if the subdivision goes through. We get to stay in our house, the land stays in farming, and I can fully retire. I hope you can see your way clear to allow this to happen. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Darryl. Thank you for that. So moving on, there's no committee reports tonight, so we'll move on to the planning reports, which is 8.1, which is planning permit application PP 2023/031, two-lot subdivision, excision of dwelling at 1120 Timboon Peterborough Road, HB Lower. Mr. Moyne, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And through you, I present Council with this report for planning permit application PP 2023/031. The application seeks approval for a two-lot subdivision excision of dwelling, which will excise the dwelling from the balanced farmland. The subject land has an area of approximately 60 hectares containing a single dwelling and outbuildings, with the balanced land mainly cleared for agriculture and used through lease in conjunction with the neighbouring dairy farm to the west. Land within the area itself is predominantly used for agriculture associated with dairy and beef production. The proposal seeks to create lot 1 of 2 hectares containing a dwelling and existing outbuildings that would be of a battle axe design with a long driveway, and lot 2 of approximately 58.7 hectares of balanced farmland. Public notice of the application has been given and no objections have been received. Planning assessment of the application has been undertaken and focuses on the policy direction within the Corangamite planning scheme, which discourages the creation of small rural residential lots in productive agricultural areas, particularly where they raise issues around the continuation of agriculture, land use conflict and protecting the right to farm. The proposed subdivision will create a rural residential lot with no ongoing connection to agriculture and presents a risk to future land use conflict. The subdivision does not provide an acceptable response to local policy direction, which discourages subdivision, which increases the potential for future dwellings, is not located at the front of the property, and is inappropriately designed and will have potential impact on current and future agricultural production, including the design of the proposed lot. The proposed subdivision will result in the fragmentation of productive agricultural land, creation of an isolated rural residential lot, and hasn't been appropriately justified. The application is in direct conflict with the policy direction of the planning scheme and is not supported. The recommendations provided before you.
Thank you, Mr. Moyne. Councillors, I have a recommendation before you. Can I please have a mover for that recommendation?
Can I move an alternate recommendation, Madam Mayor?
You can.
An alternate
Hang on.
recommendation of decision to grant a permit for the subdivision, and the alternate motion's been circulated to all councillors for consideration with all the conditions attached.
Do I have a seconder for the alternate motion? Councillor Cole. Councillor Vogels, did you want to speak to your motion?
Yeah, thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. Now, firstly, I'll give great weight to the fact there was no submissions against granting this permit. A permit is required to subdivide in an FZ1 zone and can be granted if the title is 40 hectares, but it may also be granted for a small lot if it's to create a lot for an existing dwelling, as in the case in this situation. The next question is probably the main one: will it fragment agricultural land and reduce its productiveness? I believe that this is currently fragmented land, 60 hectares for this parcel of land, and it will benefit immensely from being incorporated into the neighbouring parcel LP 211362X, as is the condition in this motion. So this is effectively unfragmenting proposed lot 2 of this subdivision and allowing expansion of the neighbouring dairy farm and giving it a higher value, a higher agricultural productivity value. So that's all good, and also there is no native vegetation removal required.
Thank you, Councillor Vogels. Councillor Cole, did you want to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As we've heard before, there's actually no precedent in planning, and this is taking one block, making a smaller house block, but also making a bigger block on the other block. It's not fragmenting the land; it's making it, as Councillor Vogel said, a bigger block of land in amalgamating two titles together. So I have no problems with the idea. Thank you.
Council, there's an alternate motion before you. Just more discussion. Councillor Constrain.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to foreshadow that should this motion lapse or be lost, then I'll be foreshadowing that we adopt the motion as outlined by the plans.
No worries. Thank you, Councillor Constrain. Councillor Beard.
Through you, Madam Mayor, and just in light of, I guess, for the public, I mean, as councillors, we've seen the alternate motion, but if Councillor Vogels could just outline the exact wording around the changes from the officer recommendation to your alternate motion, please.
So the officer's recommendation is to refuse a permit. So the alternate motion sort of puts in all the parts that make it approvable. So there's a whole range of conditions in there, and the one thing I've added is that for condition of this subdivision is that the proposed lot 2, which would be roughly 60 hectares that's left, will be amalgamated with the dairy farm next door, creating a larger title on that dairy farm. So there won't be two lots, there'll be one lot with the house on it. The other lot will disappear and be amalgamated into the next door neighbour's dairy farm. Should this deal not go ahead, then neither does the subdivision, Madam Mayor.
No worries. Thank you. Is there any more discussion on the alternate motion?
If I may, Mayor, just the clarification. Do you know if there's an agreement in place with the two parties that the property would be sold?
Well, that's the whole reason, Councillor Hickey, that this has actually come up for a subdivision. That the neighbouring dairy farm wants to purchase this land and make it part of their dairy farm permanently, giving it a higher productivity value, a lot more value to them than at its current size. It is our paddock size in my mind. So that's the plan, and that's why the whole thing's come up.
No worries. Is there any other more discussion on the alternate motion? No. If not, I'll put the alternate motion to a vote. All those in favour? All those against? Motion is denied or not carried, should I say? Lost. Thank you. Thank you for that, Councillor Castrain. So we'll go with Councillor Castrain and her foreshadowed motion. If you'd like to go with that one, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My foreshadowed motion, as I just mentioned, is as per the officer's recommendation in the agenda that this this application be refused.
Do I have a seconder for that motion, please? Councillor Canady. Councillor Castrain, did you want to speak to your motion,
Yeah,
please?
I will. Thank you, Madam Mayor. And look, I certainly sympathise with Darryl and Helen on what they're trying to achieve, but this is just not the best way for doing it. This is a very similar application to the Dalview Lane application that we dealt with last month, only being different that Dalview Lane had a working dairy across the road to that property, whereas here we have a battle axe subdivision with a 423 metre driveway and then the 2 acre house lot, which will be basically surrounded by farmland. I think, as Mr Moyne mentioned, this is just, it's conflicting with the existing uses of the farm property. And I'm sure while Mr and Mrs Wiggins are in the house, it wouldn't be an issue, but there is a threat to right to farm further down the road when they decide that they want to leave their home and perhaps move to downsize, and then it's sold to others who perhaps don't really understand the nuances of farming that comes with noise and smell and tractors and harvesting and all the things that we see in the agricultural industry. My other concern is about the balance of the lot too. It is over 40 hectares, so we could see as of right another small dwelling in this area. I think it's important that the dwelling is associated with the surrounding farmland. It's interesting that today Council had a briefing from Food and Fibre, Great South Coast Food and Fibre, and the figures that they were quoting us is about, the Victorian total production value of beef, dairy and sheep nearly a third comes from Corangamite Shire. And I think that the importance of Corangamite Shire agriculture is a statewide thing, and it highlights the importance to me to protect this land, prime agricultural land, from potential issues into the future. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Castrain. Councillor Canady, did you want to?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think Councillor Castrain has covered almost all of the important issues relating to this application. Again, I just see it as being particularly incumbent on us to be especially mindful of the strong policy guidelines in our municipal planning strategy and the planning framework. And this values agricultural land very, very highly in Corangamite. And I know that all of you agree that that's a very important thing for Corangamite Council to do because it has so much importance in many different ways in this shire. And these kinds of applications are potentially going to cause a great deal of fragmentation throughout the shire, and in effect is ad hoc development via imprudent measures if we aren't careful and don't think thoroughly about these decisions that are before us. And I agree with Councillor Castrain that this type of subdivision really does have quite strong potential to cause the arisal of difficulties with right to farm and compatibility issues and land use conflict. I have nothing further to say on the matter. Thank you. Yeah.
Is there any more discussion on the recommendation for us, councillors? No?
Yeah, I'll have a thanks very much, Mayor. I found it particularly difficult, and I certainly I can certainly see why the Wiggins would love to stay the place. It's a beautiful parcel of land. It looks over the Southern Ocean. It's really good. The problem I have is it's direct conflict with our planning policy. The policy has been put in place for a very, very good reason. I think there are probably other alternatives that may allow Darrell to stay there, which I'm not sure how that could be pursued, but I think there would be probably other options. And so, yeah, I need to support the officers only because it's a direct conflict of our planning policy.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Anything further, Councillor Vogels?
I'll just remind council before we vote that the policy says that if it's an existing dwelling, you can create a small lot. This is no development, not ad hoc development. There is no development, and it's not creating a small 40-hectare lot that shall be built on with another house. It's the other one that was knocked back would have amalgamated its 40 hectares into the existing dairy farm for dairy farm use rather than have a fragmented 60-hectare lot with a house on it.
Thank you, Councillor Vogels. Councillor Castrain, did you have
Just
a
have a reply.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And in saying that, Councillor Vogels, that is a possibility that there might never be another dwelling, but there is always a possibility that there could be another dwelling. And just with regard to the comment that you made that there were no objections, and I can understand that that would be a reason, well, nobody seems to think it's an issue, but nobody is looking at these applications with the lens of the municipal planning strategy. So that's the job that we have as councillors, and that's basically what we make our decisions on.
Thank you, Councillor Castrain. And on that note, I'll put this motion to a vote. All those in favour, please. All those against? Motion is carried. Thank you. Rightio, moving on. Moving on to 9.1. Local Government Performance Indicator Report for the 6-month period ending 31st December 2023. Mr. David Harrington, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. This report presents the provisional results for the first 6 months of the 2023-2024 performance report under the Local Government Performance Reporting Framework. This is a mandatory system of reporting to ensure that all councils are measuring and reporting their performance in a consistent manner. Council's performance is generally positive with respect to the service performance indicators. Some indicators have performed strongly, whereas some perform lower than expected, and there are mitigating reasons or actions identified to improve the lower performing areas. Results are generally favourable amongst financial performance and sustainability indicators, and Council continues to be fully compliant with its governance requirements as reflected in the governance and management checklist. Mayor, the recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Mr. Harrington. Councillors, there's a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Oh, well, 3 at once. My goodness, this never happens.
Ladies first.
I'll go Councillor Beard and then Councillor Hickey, you can second it.
I actually don't think I was first, to be honest. So I'm happy to go as the seconder to Councillor Hickey.
Okay, go.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Mayor. Yes, this report's very interesting to read through. It is a statutory requirement that we are expected to go through and provide these results. Yes, they're all there to be tabled for us to examine. So I'll move that we accept the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Councillor Beard?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. Look, we've become accustomed to this now for many years, that this is one of those reports that just has to happen. It is a lot of work that is done within the organisation. Particularly, I'll make mention to our acting governance coordinator, Imogen Black, who has helped compile all this information that we get. It is at the end of the day, it's 6 monthly. It's not even the true reflection of what we typically base our yearly valuation on. So there's a lot of can be a lot of discrepancies depending on when monetary comes in and when projects completed and projects aren't completed. So it's hard to get a real gauge of how the organisation is tracking at 6 months. But regardless, when you look at this report, we're still a standout. And I think that is why we continue to be we're really admired within local government as an organisation. And a lot of that has nothing to do with us as councillors. It is the staff that ultimately are the ones who deliver, create the opportunities and deliver the project. So it's a great reflection, again, of where the organisation is at and comparably to other councils. So I get that it's something that has to be done, it is an issue with how much it costs and that we have to actually have staff committed to it. But at the end of the day, it is still a good reflection of what's happening at our Shire.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Councillor Castrain?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. And just going on from Councillor Beard's comment about the cost, this does come at a cost. It involves 15 staff members and it costs us about $15,000 per year. So it's a lot of money to put this on, do a lot of other things with that $15,000 than running through these 80 mandatory indicators. What it does do, however, is it does highlight, looking through the report around the planning particularly, and we're seeing complexity in planning applications that are coming. There's an enormous workload and we've suffered from staff vacancies in limited resources. So that certainly does, throw up a red light for our directors and our CEO. It's also the same in food safety. Until recently, we've been struggling with staff vacancies. It is interesting, though, the liquidity is well and truly up there, Mr. Harrington, but obviously that's the working capital from the brought forward projects that came forward from last year, which hopefully we seem to be working through them when you look at the annual action plan.
Thank you, Councillor Castrain. Any other comments on the recommendation? I'd just like to say I agree with Councillor Castrain. I was going to point out the planning as well, and our planners do a great job for the time strain and complexity of applications that are being put into them. So they must be congratulated for the work they're doing. It is a lot of work nowadays and it does take up a lot of time and effort. So even though the figures don't look great on paper, our planners are working beyond and beyond what is required of them. So I thank that team very much. We sometimes don't get all the thanks or the praise that you require. So well done and thank you. Councillors, if there's no more discussion on the topic, we'll put this to a vote. All those in favour? All those against? None. Motion is passed. Thank you very much. So item number 9.2, Council Annual Action Plan Performance, July to December 2023. Mr. Ray.
Madam Mayor, and through you, not dissimilar to the previous item, there's an obligation on council to report progress against the council plan for the first 6 months of the financial year. And councils, we are actually in the last year of that council plan effectively. There's 58 actions identified in the annual action plan, and there's lots of positive work already halfway through the year, and there's been progress on the overwhelming majority of those items. As at the 31st of December, there were, as I said, 58 in progress. 5 actions were complete, or 5 actions identified as not yet to commence. So it's exciting to see the progress occurring, and I guess in terms of each of those actions, there's commentary provided against them in the report, and myself or directors are happy to take any questions on any of those actions this evening, Mayor. And it's recommended the council receives the annual action plan progress report for July to December 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. Councillors, there's a recommendation before you. Do I have a mover for that recommendation, please? Councillor Cole, I see your hand first. Councillor Cole, seconded Councillor Beard. Thank you, Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is, once again, it's been mentioned, it's sort of a compliance issue, of which we seem to get saddled with a lot, costs a lot and everything else. But I do note one of the compliance issues we've been advocating for an upgrade of the Darlington Road, which is narrow, has crests on it and all sorts of other nice dangerous things. If they were Shire roads, we'd have to fix them within due course, but it doesn't seem to matter when it's other further up things. But there's lots of things that have been advocacy ongoing, in progress, completed. It all takes time, it all costs money, and unfortunately we have to pay for it, or the ratepayers have to pay for it. So unfortunately it'd be good to have a lot of these things ticked off the list and move onwards, but anyway we can't. So congratulate the council staff for doing a good job and bringing it to our attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Councillor Beard?
Through you, Madam Mayor, thank you. And obviously this is a progress report. It's almost like a scorecard for us as council for the period of July through to December. Again, really impressive. The amount of initiatives that have been achieved, actioned and achieved is pretty formidable. As Mr. Ray said, there's only a handful that haven't yet started, but the commentary is there. And this is commentary that's not only for us, but it's also for the public, because this was on the basis of our council plan. And it's our commitment to that council plan by the actions that we create each year, to make sure that we are continuing to adhere to that plan that we created almost 4 years ago. So that action plan does evolve, but it's really important to see that we have got progress from that and the actions have actually been achieved. So shout out to each of the departments and the leadership team for keeping tabs on that. It is pretty fluid. Very often do we change it, we review it, and there is sometimes changes to it. But it is really, it's wonderful to see just how much has been achieved by the organisation, and we've still got, half the year to go, so that's good.
Thanks, Councillor Beard. Any other comments? Oh, Councillor Vogels?
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. I will just note that completed doesn't mean successful either. So a lot of stuff we advocate for isn't successful. I'll highlight one here to the top of my mind at the moment, which was protecting and improving our built and natural environment. And we advocate to DECA to provide operational funding to assist reserve committees managing increasing costs, which are a massive burden and increasing more and more with compliance and stuff, and putting a lot of pressure on just volunteers to do their job. And as it says here, so we've asked DECA to put some effort into, it's their land that committees and management put some money in to help out, and we were not successful.
Thank you, Councillor Vogels. Any other comments?
Yep.
Yes,
Thanks, Mayor. One of the first jobs we had as a newly formed council was to formulate the council plan and address the 5 key themes across our plan. This looks very good as we read through it. There's a lot of detail within the group. Yes, points taken that completed doesn't necessarily mean achieved, but the goal has been completed. And it is quite pleasing when you look through and just see what we have achieved in that time. And given, as Councillor Beard said, we've still got a fair bit of time to go yet. It's a good report. I wish I had one like this at school when I was at school.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey. No other comments? Oh, Councillor Castrange.
Can I ask a question, please,
Yeah,
Mr. Ray, and apologise without notice. In the section Thriving Community, we were going to explore training, work experience and employment opportunities, stadiums and, beg your pardon, for young people by providing traineeships in skill shortage areas. So we're looking for 3 trainees. That commenced in December, Mr. Ray. I'm wondering how that's going. Have we employed anybody as yet?
Madam Mayor, through you and Councillor Castrange, we've seen in the last week or so 3 trainees commence in various roles across the organisation. It's exciting to be able to support young people in the community to, further their own career aspirations or in a gap year, as the case may be with one example. They're filling roles in information management, local laws, and recreation, so right across the organisation.
Thank you.
And I have a question for you too, Mr. Ray, without notice, sorry. Under theme 5, community leadership, it's saying having strong governance policies. There's no actions, and as we know, councillors, we love governance and we need to have strong policies and practices. I was just wondering, can you give us an update on what's happening with that, please?
Madam Mayor, through you, thank you for your question, Mayor, and although Council did not identify any actions when adopting this annual action plan, certainly council governance remains an important issue, and it's front of mind with, our respective roles in the organisation. We would have an annual governance refresher for council that will be programmed later in the year. There's also then the ongoing review and maintenance and update of our policy framework, and obviously compliance against the Local Government Act first and foremost, but also other legislation as well. So there's lots happening in the governance space. We're also pleasingly have recruited a new governance manager, so we're strengthening our approach to governance at the organisational level, but also council level as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Ray. No other discussion on the matter? I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Passed. Thank you. I move on to item 9.3, use of private land policy. Miss Lindley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The council's local laws include controls on the use of private land to minimise adverse impacts on amenity and safety, and they cover items such as the general amenity of land, the storage of materials and waste that are unsightly, odorous or dangerous, the placement of bulk rubbish containers, the use of recreational vehicles in urban areas and after hours, and the occupation of caravans and movable dwellings or camping for extended periods. The local laws themselves are due for review in 2025. However, this report doesn't cover that. What we're covering is the policy that we implement as officers. So this use of private land policy provides guidance on the application of the local laws. It includes assessing amenity impacts, permit triggers, exemptions and decision guidelines. The policy is used by authorised officers of council to enforce the local laws, and landowners and occupiers of private land are encouraged. We use the policy to encourage compliance with the local laws and to also provide assurance to people who are adversely impacted by the use of private land. A review of the policy has been undertaken and approximately 10 alterations are recommended as outlined in the report. These include clarification of what the term general amenity actually means or includes, such as vantage points for visual amenity, the inclusion of odour as a consideration, and the inclusion of caravans, tents and movable dwellings, and what will be considered as appropriate screening of unregistered or unroadworthy vehicles on private land. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Ms Lindley. Councillor, there's a recommendation before you. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Beard, second to Councillor Constrain. Councillor Beard?
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. What a diverse agenda we already have tonight.
Yeah, we do, don't we?
Yeah, I'm happy to move the recommendation for this one. And look, we actually workshopped, or we had the briefing of the draft policy came to us by that officers group, and we got a chance to have influence over that and have input, and we're able to have great discussions around that. It was certainly, and we have got a blowy. If anyone's watching at home thinking that fly, it's too quick for us. The issue we have is that there is a bit of, to the general public, there can be some confusion over a local law versus this policy here. And as Ms Lindley just stated, the local laws will be under review next year, which from the complaints that I often receive from my constituents, that's what falls under local laws, will be around the amount of cars or unregistered, unsightly cars on a residential property. It can also be around overgrowth, which comes under the Bushfire Act. There's lots of things that don't often fall under the policy that we actually have specific oversight to. So this is one that we can have oversight to, not disregarding that there's state legislation that also comes into play, which can often to our constituents, they just want something fixed up. They don't understand that part. So there's been some alterations made to this policy that can help clarify some of that, and obviously some better descriptions. One of the ones that I was certainly keen to see the wording, I think, and even just the the appreciation around when we have that screening. I think it wasn't really solid enough and deterring enough for people to put up screening for unsightly vision, which or visionary impact, which could potentially usually has been around unregistered cars, and it hasn't been, as I said, a strong enough deterrent the way it was to stop people from doing that. So I think the fact that we've tightened up the appropriate screening will certainly, hopefully, make people think twice about storing, things that aren't great for the neighbourhood. The neighbourhood and visual amenity is the words I'm looking for. So I think this is certainly a good way to go going forward. But yeah, I think the local laws review will be a good one next year as well.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Councillor Constrain?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and Councillor Beard has covered most of the points. I would like to say that probably this local law deals with most of the complaints that I get from residents who are concerned mainly about unsightly premises, next door neighbours, long grass, which we've talked about coming under the CFA Act, and cars and just general amenity in their neighbourhood. So it's good that we're just getting some clarification around that and how we're going to interpret general amenity, particularly from the road frontage. it's good to see that odour has also been included, and understandably vermin has been removed, which vermin can live in any backyard. It's not specifically ones that have issues with long grass. I think it's interesting too that further clarification on the decision guidelines around permits for caravans and camping on private land. I know I've dealt with a couple of those in the last few weeks, and I think that it's interesting that it's not interesting at all. It's a sign of the times, and unfortunately that we have to consider special circumstances around homelessness and domestic violence. Always encourage people to have a look around their property, go for a walk along the footpath, and if you've got a tree or a shrub overhanging more than a third of the path width, then give it a bit of a prune so our local laws team don't have to come around and ask you to do that. I think that this will certainly clarify some confusion in the public, and of course to deal with the local law when it comes due.
Thank you.
Thanks, Madam.
Thank you, Councillor Castrain. Any more comments on the recommendation? I too would just like to say that Councillor Castrain did mention it about the caravans and camping, considering that now with people being able to put granny flats in their backyards and stuff, it gets a bit confusing as to what you can put and can't put in your backyard. So I do think that's great that we've got a bit more structure and a bit more rules and regulations around how long you can stay in a caravan for within a 12-month period and without a permit and everything else like that. So that's great to see. If there's no further comments, I'll put the recommendation to motion. All those in favour? Excellent. The motion is passed. I'll move on to 9.4, contract 2024007, Jet Patcher, and I'm moving to Mr. Jared Wolf. Thanks.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, the purpose of this report is to recommend the award of contract 2024-007 for the supply and delivery of one new truck-mounted combination road maintenance unit, which is better known as the Jet Patcher. Public tender process has been undertaken with one tender providing submission. That tenderer provided two options for council consideration, which have been reviewed in line with the technical evaluation report. Detailed review and evaluation of both options has been undertaken, and councillors, the recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. I love the name, Jet Patcher. Sounds like we're going to outer space, but that's okay. Councillors, I have a recommendation before you. Does anyone like to move the recommendation, please? Councillor Cole, Councillor Kennedy. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I note that the one that we're voting on to purchase is $24,000, just short of $24,000 more expensive than the cheaper option. However, there are already 15 Hinos in the fleet, and this will make 16, I think, going forward. And the other one is something else. I didn't write it down. An Isuzu. And I know when you look around farms and things like that, you quite often see lots of John Deeres or lots of something else. They're always the same, because service and ongoing maintenance is performed by the farm. And if you've got the same vehicles in the fleet, it's a lot easier than having lots of spare parts for other vehicles and et cetera, and learning other ways of fixing vehicles and methods that they've built the vehicle. So it's a lot cheaper in the long run to have the same equipment by the same manufacturer. Makes it a lot easier and quicker. If you have downtime on an odd vehicle, it can be expensive and time consuming getting the parts because you don't probably have it in stock, et cetera. So whilst it is more expensive, the initial cost, I think the overall benefit will be a lot cheaper in the long run. And I think this is a good thing. We're using them a lot, fixing up the roads. They need when they're needed, and I have no trouble moving it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Mayor. There's really nothing much further to add, only to say that I think this is a common sense decision with regard to the familiarity of the staff and reliability of the that mate, the Hino, I think, or Hino, whatever way you say it, and the spare parts, so it just makes sense.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Any other discussion on Councillor Vogels?
Thank you, through you, Madam. Just a question for Mr. Wolf without notice is, what's the life expectancy of a Jet Patcher? Obviously, you've got all the bitumen and stuff going through, so it's a fair few dollars. And wonder how many years?
Yeah, thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. we expect around 10 to 12 years for the life of a jet patcher. With this one expecting to replace the existing.
Okay, thank you.
Nothing further, Councillor Vogels?
Nothing further.
Councillor Beard?
To you, Madam Mayor, just a comment and a question without notice, but just a comment is, I can remember when we bought the very first jet patcher and how exciting it was, Councillor Australian. We thought we revolutionised the filling up with potholes, and when they gave us the display, the demo, yeah, it was pretty cool. But to have another one coming into or a replacement one for the fleet, it's pretty amazing to think that it has done the 10 years. Pretty much would be 10 years, I would say. So my question for you, states in the report, and you mentioned it's 12 months before we can get this one. Is the current jet patcher going to be able to continue to do its job?
Yeah, thank you. And through you, Madam Mayor, Councillor Beard, the existing is still workable, but it has getting towards the end of its life and time for a turnover. So we'll be looking to do that. Extended lead time, as you mentioned, around that 12 months, which is why we've brought this to council now to progress.
Excellent. Nothing further? There's no further commentary. We'll put this recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Motion carried. Thank you. I move on to 9.5, Corangamite Moyne Library Service Agreement. Mr. Waff.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Mayor, Corangamite Moyne Library Service has been operating for 18 months. The service has seen a successful transition from a cooperation model through to a shared service model. An agreement for the delivery of that service has been entered into between Corangamite Shire and Moyne Shire. And that initial term of the agreement was for 3 years, from the 1st of July 2022 through to the 30th of June 2025, with 2 further consecutive options of 3 years. In line with the agreement, Council needs to notify each other in writing no later than 12 months before the expiry of the agreement of their intention to enter into an option or otherwise. The library service has been operating well since its implementation, with really strong visitation and financial performance. Councillors, the recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Mr. Waff. Councillors, there's a recommendation. Do I have a mover for that recommendation, please? Councillor Castrain, do I have a seconder? Councillor Canady, thank you. Councillor Castrain, I thought your hand would go up for this one.
Yeah, say the word library and my hand goes up. I must admit, I'll share with councillors, I spent several hours yesterday in the new Warrnambool Library, and it's absolutely amazing facility. I'm incredibly jealous. I even joined, but I've asked them to keep that a secret. I've still got my Corangamite Moyne Shire Library Service card, and I will keep using that.
It was no good.
No, I have to be perfectly honest. I'm very jealous, and I know that one day we'll have a top-notch library here in Corangamite. I think that this is a very sensible way forward, and I certainly endorse that the directors and the managers have been together and had a discussion. And I'm hoping, Mr. Waff, that Moyne are agreeable to this, that they're not going to throw us a curveball, but I think if we commit to another 3-year term, I think that's only good for the service. I think it's only 18 months in. We've seen, great increase in memberships when we did the marketing for the new service, and I think that that's maintained. It's a much loved service by Corangamite residents, and heaven help a council if they try to cut back library hours, that's for sure. So I think it's a great opportunity just to bed things down, settle it down. I see in the report, Mr. Waff, that there may be opportunities to improve the library service into the future. So I think with this security, we can see that happen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Castrain. Councillor Canady.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Always very hard to follow Councillor Australian on anything regarding libraries, but certainly has been a very great working relationship with Moyne, going very successfully as the report has outlined. So it does make sense to continue with that relationship, and hopefully Moyne will see it that way as well. And I support the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Canadian. Councillors, is there any more discussion? Nope. If there's no more discussion, I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? All those against? Carried. Thank you. I move on to item 9.6, Camperdown Production Precinct Master Plan. Mr. Moyne.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you I present Council with this report on the Camperdown Production Precinct's master plan. The final master plan is being prepared following public consultation to provide council, community, landowners and businesses with a vision, strategic direction and actions required to enable the long-term growth and development of the precinct. The master plan arises strategically from the Corangamite Shire Industrial Land Strategy, recommending the need for a high-quality business precinct in Camperdown, along with the Great South Coast Regional Economic Development Strategy, identifying value-add opportunities in agricultural processing and growth in the food and fibre sector. The master plan will facilitate the coordinated development and investment in the precinct, especially driven by the need to address servicing and infrastructure requirements, which present barriers to future development. A vision and principles have been established with 5 key themes supported by objectives and actions. Servicing and infrastructure is a core component of the plan and identifies the need for ongoing collaboration and advocacy by project partners to resolve these barriers through practical and innovative solutions. The master plan development has been supported by a project working group chaired by Councillor Hickey, and the project has been through 2 separate consultation stages. Further consultation will occur as land use planning actions are implemented through a planning scheme amendment. The master plan sets an ambitious strategic direction for council in leveraging future manufacturing and processing opportunities, and provides the platform to drive investment into critically required infrastructure. Already the master plan project has supported funding to be obtained within the precinct to support through the support of Regional Development Victoria for a treated wastewater analysis, which will be extremely valuable. The recommendations provided before you.
Thank you, Mr. Moyne. Councillors, there's a recommendation before us. Is there any movers for that one, please? Councillor Hickey, do I have a seconder for that one, please? Councillor Kennedy, thank you. Councillor Hickey?
Hey, thank you, Mayor. And I made a few notes for this one too, so permit me to read them. The plan's been developed by our planning officers, a Victorian Planning Authority and a community group, which, as Mr. Moyne said, I've been chairing. The main intent of the master plan is to provide a framework for developing industry within Corangamite and essentially within Camperdown. And this is because Camperdown sits strategically on a freight network with road and rail between Melbourne and Geelong and between Warrnambool and Portland. Camperdown also has a role in providing agricultural and manufacturing functions that are very close to our primary industries. It's an ideal opportunity for the town to foster initial growth, industrial growth and employment as well. And finally, it's because the provision of adequate land that is development ready to meet future recommendations for expansion of the industrial estate is existing, and that's looking forward to 20 to 30 years. Shire's commitment is reflected in the road upgrades, including turning lanes in the immediate locality, and it sorts solutions for the immediate trade waste limitations, with drinking water, stormwater and domestic sewage priorities all as future developments. There's a number of opportunities within this project for renewable energies to be developed within the precinct, and all sorts of formulations of generation are under scrutiny, and essentially we need to move towards net zero, and everything is on the table. The master plan addresses many other issues, as was mentioned by Mr. Moyne's report. It was released for public consultation in December 2023, and it is now ready for adoption, that I believe. The document is available on the Corangamite website and is certainly worth downloading. So therefore, I'm happy to move that the council adopt the Camperdown Production Precinct Master Plan, February 2024.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Councillor Kennedy?
Thank you, Mayor. If I might stand corrected, but I thought I saw somewhere in here where this whole project started out somewhere around about 2012. I'm right, aren't I? You don't look strange. So it's been a long time coming, and it's really great to see the Camperdown Production Precinct Master Plan come forward. And it's a really great document that's designed to support enablement in that precinct, which is sorely needed in Camperdown, and also designed to capture opportunity for Camperdown and the wider Shire. And, that's something that we've talked about since the beginning of our term here in council, is creating opportunity and investment in the Corangamite Shire. So this has developed a planned approach to the creation of a quality business park, which we've been receiving. The bloke's come to see me, the butterfly.
Still over here too, don't worry.
Certainly been receiving substantial support to get that type of a business park created in the Camperdown area. It should attract future business and industry and attract funding and investment and support existing industry. And it's all to the benefit of the Corangamite Shire via job creation and value add for local products and support for our important food and fibre sector. Specifically, the trade waste requirement, which has been mentioned at least twice, maybe 3 times already in the discussion tonight, but that was something that we've seen to be a particular need in the Camperdown production precinct. Not a lot can happen until we get that attended to, but we have been working hard with Warren Water and advocating for funding for that major project to come through. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Is there any more discussion on the master plan? No. Oh yeah, Councillor Beard.
Yeah, I'm just going to do a shout out to the project working group, obviously chaired by Councillor Hickey, but we usually set up these project working groups to get we try to capture the local content and the stakeholders that, a lot of these strategies and plans really influence or particularly could impact the most. But it's great that it's co-designed as always, and, they attended 4 meetings. So it's not written in the master plan, in the draft master, or the master plan, I should say, which I should say is a fantastic document, and I love the pictures particularly. I'm a real pictures person. But I was wondering if I don't want to know names, but the types of people in the project working group, the stakeholders that were represented, Councillor Hickey, whether that's yourself or Mr. Moyne, that just gives an overview, because I think we do need to give a big shout out to those people.
So, yes, happy. Thank you very much. And certainly Aaron and Kristen Wilkes have done an enormous amount of work behind the scenes presenting this working group and actually holding together. But there's people like Bart Bolsh and Barney Molan, Mark Molan, Don Skeen. I could have written these down a bit earlier, sorry.
John Lyons.
John Lyons, of course, John Lyons, very, very important member.
Peter Skeen.
Peter Skeen, yes, thank you very much, Aaron. Make me look good.
No problem.
No, it's just out of interest, so thank you.
Yes, no, they've done a marvellous job, as has our 2 officers as well, at pulling all this together.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Is there any more discussion on the recommendation? If not, I'll put it all to a vote. All those in favour? Motion carried. Thank you. I move to 9.7, Business Assistance Scheme. Ms McMahon.
Thanks, Mayor. So tonight is the first report on our on applications through our new business assistance scheme. The scheme is our new way of supporting council's businesses, creatives, entrepreneurs and community enterprises, and has 4 streams. The first stream, business facade improvements, provides financial support to businesses with street frontage in our 12 towns to undertake facade improvements such as painting, new signage, repairs and maintenance, improved access and entrances and landscaping works. Stream 2 is creative industries and placemaking, and supports and builds the capacity of entrepreneurs, creatives and businesses to create and deliver inclusive and vibrant projects and activations in public spaces or areas that are accessible to the public. Stream 3, community enterprise, supports community-led businesses, entrepreneurs and creatives to develop enterprise skills and builds economic capacity and employment opportunities across the community. Stream 4, fees and enabling infrastructure, supports development that is significant and beneficial to the community to occur within reduced timeframes and assists new businesses to establish by reducing the upfront costs. Tonight there are 4 applications being considered, all through Stream 1, the Business Facade Improvement Stream. The first application is from Camperdown Nursery and Mart, and this project includes cleaning and painting of business facade to match works previously undertaken. The second application is from Belief Gardens and Gifts in Lismore, and this project is proposing to install new business facade signage, planter box signs and door graphics. Third application is from Murphy Whiting and Electrical in Terrain. This business has recently moved into a new building and the proposal is to install a ramp and handrails at the front entrance and electric sliding door to improve accessibility. The fourth application is from Tanya Marie's Flowers in Camperdown, and this project is for the design and installation of new business signage, including a window sign, panel signs, and a sign on the veranda. All applications have been assessed against the criteria for Stream 1 and all meet the grant criteria and align with the objectives of the scheme and are recommended for approval.
Thanks, Mr Maher. Councillors, I have a recommendation for you. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Hickey, do I have a seconder? Councillor Beard, thank you. Councillor Hickey.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a very new initiative and I must confess I haven't got a lot of notes written to this. However, I'm very pleased to see that those businesses that have accessed the business assistance scheme taken full advantage of it. It's a great system. It's a great way to be able to help businesses within the community. I'm very happy to have moved this.
Thank you, Councillor Hickey. Councillor Beard.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, going back in September, I think it was that we approved this policy, and it was a great way to bring certain grant funding streams together, but also improve what we had on offer. And I guess one of the holding back details that we had with the previous grant funding streams was that it was only once a year, whereas this is now ongoing. So each month we can hopefully see some applications come to the table. And it's a lot more broader. So I think we're actually going to see that we're able to, support and be of benefit to a lot more local businesses across Corangamite Shire, which is a great thing, a lot more inclusiveness, I believe. I think it's also worthwhile mentioning that we had our launch only, was it last week or the week before? I feel so bad every time running into each other. Last week. Week before. And anybody out there listening and is unsure of it, and let's start using the acronym, the BAS policy. There's a great booklet getting around which has all the funding streams that come in under this policy, how to go about applying for them and what the entitlements are, and whether they need dollar for dollar matching funding or whether it's a straight out grant. So if anyone out there is listening, our local businesses, please get in contact with the crew at the Shire and certainly take the time. Also on the website, a lot of people are probably looking at that as well, but certainly a great way now that we can continue to support our local businesses each month now.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Any more comments? I'd just like to say the same as what Councillor Beard has said. Business ideas don't come around every 12 months. They come when they come. So it's great that we can adapt to that and have grants and opportunities to support these businesses as the idea arises. I know that it's hard thinking 12 months ahead when you want to put in for an application for a grant and go, oh, maybe that might be a good idea. But now this is a bit more flexibility and a bit easier for those businesses out there to obtain some funding from the council, which is great. And I must congratulate Katie McMahon's team on their launch the other week. Sorry, I was going to say last week too. It was a great event. It was great to see new business people there from around the Shire. It was fantastic to mingle. I think we had over 30 people there. Yep. Which was just fantastic. So it was just great to have something like that in the community and launch this great scheme that we have at the moment. So congratulations to you and your team. It was a fantastic event and you must be congratulated. So if there's no more comments on the recommendation, I'll put it all to a vote. All those in favour? Motion carried. Thank you very much. So I'll go to 9.8, the MAV State Council motion. Mr. Ray.
Madam Mayor, through you, the peak body for Victorian Council, the Municipal Association of Victoria, regularly conducts state council forums to gauge issues of mutual concerns for councils and invite submissions of motions for consideration. The next MAV State Council meeting is to be held on the 17th of May and matters for consideration are now open. Mayor, a draft motion has been prepared for consideration this evening to advocate for issues of concern associated with the local government minister's good practice guidelines for service rates and charges. The guidelines take effect from the 1st of March. Whilst early analysis indicates the financial impact upon Corangamite Shire Council is negligible to none, the impact across the state varies greatly. The immediate shock of complying with the guidelines is not able to be absorbed in the short term by many councils, and consequently transitional arrangements are required. And on this basis, a proposed resolution has been prepared, and it's recommended that council submit a motion to the MAV State Council as per the report.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. Council says a recommendation before you. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Castrain. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Beard. Thank you. Councillor Castrain.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And it is as Mr. Ray's just outlined that this has come in just recently, and it has to be enacted by the 1st of March, which is, as we know, is only a few days away. So I imagine that Corangamite will not be the only council that will have a motion around the waste charges at State Council in May. I know that there are, while we're, as Mr. Ray mentioned, that it doesn't overly impact on us. I think as a sector, we really need to push back, and doing that through our peak body is the appropriate place to the state government. That obviously councils have prepared budgets, they're well down the track of budgets for the next financial year. And in case of, I know of several regional city councils, this is going to be an impost of about another $2 million that they can't use in other services, that they're going to be withdrawn from other services. So I think that this is an appropriate forum to send this motion to.
Thank you, Councillor Castrain. Councillor Beard.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. I am not even going to try and say anything else other than what the board member of MAV and our councillor, Councillor Castrain has said. And yeah, it's a pity that we haven't had the time, but look, we've still managed to get through our motion tonight. So I'm happy to be second to everything that Councillor Castrain has spoken to.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Any other comments? If not, I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Motion carried. Thank you. I move on to 9.9, Local Government Reforms 2024 Consultation Paper Submission. Mr. Ray.
Mayor, thank you. Through you, the Victorian Government seeking feedback on proposed local government reforms following its announcement in November of last year to introduce legislative change during the current calendar year. In January 2024, the government released a local government reforms consultation paper to support improved governance and integrity for review by the sector and provide feedback. Submissions close on the 29th of this month, so in a couple of days' time. The reforms proposed include strengthening council leadership, capability and council conduct, early intervention and dispute resolution, and enhancing oversight mechanisms. The reforms, should they be implemented, will have a range of implications that council should consider. In doing so, it's recommended council provide feedback as it's been invited to do so. And the proposed response is attached to the report under separate cover, and the recommendations before you.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. Councillors, there's a recommendation before us. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Castrain. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Canady. Thank you. Councillor Castrain.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. Once again, this is a tight turnaround. This document was circulated in January, and we need to deal with it through a motion to get our feedback back to the local government of Victoria by the 29th of February. So, you know, Mr. Ray outlined the headings, and I'll just go a little bit into a bit more detail. And there's certainly absolutely no argument around councillor training and mandatory training for mayors and deputy mayors. But I think it's the timings that they're putting around this. This has to be done within 3 months of an election. That's we're talking November, December, January. It's just a really busy time of the year, and I would certainly advise that there's some training is put into place. Obviously, when councillors are elected, there is that onboarding, but that training can be spread out over a few more months, because it's not only the time scheduling being the end of the year, it's also access to resources. When you have 79 councils who will be impacted by these reforms, everybody will be after the same people to deliver their training. It talks about a model code of conduct, and currently each council develops their own code of conduct. I think while a model code of conduct can be done quickly and easily, I think there should be an ability for councillors to add on. So if there's particular behaviours that you want to have more control of, that there is a baseline, but that you have the ability to enhance that code of conduct. There's a limiting of VCAT review of decisions at the conduct panel, and it now have to go to the Supreme Court. This is costly and it places another burden on the state's court system, and definitely costly for a councillor if they want to challenge a code of conduct panel outcome. It's proposed that councils cannot indemnify councillors, and this may prove to be a deterrent of potential candidates in the future. And oversight mechanisms, there's an ability of the minister to suspend or sack individual councillors. There's positives and negatives, because if there's one councillor that is causing an issue at a council, currently the whole council has to go if the minister sees fit. So I think that there is a positive that that could happen, but it's a negative because we need clarification on what conduct deems the need to be suspended or to be sacked. And I think it's interesting that, there's the last section is other miscellaneous amendments which can't be elaborated on. And I remember my sister doing a essay for uni, a topic, and it's 500 words and she got to 496 and she just put and much, much more. So what concerns me is that other miscellaneous amendments, goodness knows what that could be. We have no idea. And we'll probably have very short time turning around to comment on them if we see them at all. Yes. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Castrain. Councillor Canady?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. Councillor Castrain has addressed this in quite a lot of detail. I actually was pleased to see the way their responses were constructed, because they did note the lack of detail in the consultation paper, which Councillor Castrain referred to, and also the necessity of clarification of some of the actions that the consultation paper suggests. Also, their concern about the indemnity for councillors, repeal mechanism and responsibilities for providing its advice and reporting. I do remember I was involved in a MAV forum, online forum just last week, and there were a number of comments about these things, and also just where information is stored once it is provided to the municipal monitor, if that ever happens. So there's a lot of things about the consultation paper that aren't clear, and I think it is important that we seek that clarification and understand exactly where this is going to end. I also agree with Councillor Castrain about individual LGAs having that ability to add on to the model code of conduct, because we all have certain elements about our organisations that just might require a little bit of tailoring, if you like, and I think it's really important that councillors can have some input into that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Canady. Is there any more comments? Councillor Beard.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I think it's really important what Councillor Castrain originally spoke to around the Council Code of Conduct. We talk a lot about behaviours. I think for Corangamite particularly, one thing we've always prided ourselves on is culture. So to be able to put our own little spin on the Code of Conduct and expectations, that's where it needs to be flexible, because we do want to continue to protect what has been before us. There's legacies that have been left before us by some incredible councillors, and I'd hate to see that sort of gets forgotten about. So I'm glad that we're putting that into our submission. The other thing is, and I'm interested to see what Mr. CEO thinks of this one, but the CEO thinks of this one. The compulsory or induction training for councillors, having thought back to previous councils, and even tonight, like if that planning decision was put on a brand new council in the first month, which has happened in previous terms, we need councillors to be prepared for that. That is the reality of what they're signing up for. So I think either councillors or incoming councillors need to get some education behind them. There's mandatory training before they put their hand up to stand for election, but there also has to be some accountability that there is training done straight up, particularly around planning, because that is one of those things that can either make or break people, and it is reputational risk to organisation too. So I think that is one space where I really believe that training should occur in a really quick time frame. Mr. Ray, I was wondering what your thoughts were on that, because I have no doubt you and the leadership team are probably already starting to compile a bit of a process or a program around induction. knowing how it's rolled out in previous council terms, but knowing we've got an election at the end of the year, is that something that you're already, 3 months might be tight, but I think there is elements that these the new incoming councils need straight up. What's your thoughts on that?
Mayor, through you. Councillor Beard, thank you for your question. Induction training is an important part of council's onboarding process. And you are correct, we are starting to plan for the induction of a new council following the October elections later this year. 3 months is a tight timeline to be able to deliver all those training requirements, and it's unknown what those requirements will be at this early stage. Certainly, at the very earliest opportunity, we would prepare council for its first meeting, taken through a process to elect a mayor, and clearly around the roles and responsibility of a councillor, the mayor, the deputy mayor, in particular as legislated in the Local Government Act, through the requirements of the Code of Conduct and so forth, and how decisions are made. And there's a whole regime around inducting council into what council does and its legislative responsibility. So there's a lot to take in. Training is very important. I guess the challenge is who provides that training and the costs associated with that, and the ongoing frequency.
I think he answered the question. I just want to reiterate how important it is to have training still. 6 months is way too far out there, but I think there is elements that have to be delivered very quickly. And the expectation of the councillor, and I'm sure Councillor Australian agrees, and Madam Mayor, from when previous Mayor, your husband Matt, was on council, times have changed. Expectations on the responsibility of councillors and councils have changed, and the workload has certainly increased. So, as I said, I just hope the expectation is there of the incoming councillors to know that there is a requirement and they make time allowance. Regardless, I know we need the resources at the other side of it too to deliver it, but there should be commitment from both sides.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Any further discussion? Can I just say, Councillor Beard, answering some of your questions, maybe, when I was elected Mayor, MAV ran a very great introduction program, and the Deputy Mayor, Laurie Hickey, attended to, and it was great to see all those mayors and deputy mayors there and go through that process. So I congratulate the MAV for already doing something. So if it's not broke, why fix it, is my motto to that one. So why do we have to reinvent the wheel and do something again when an organisation already do it quite well? And I do agree that 3 months is a very short time frame, especially over the Christmas New Year period. And as we said, there's a lot of us trying to get all the same resources at the same time just does not work. And I sat in on a MAV online meeting the other night, and all 15 councillors that were there all agreed on what we are discussing tonight. They agree with what we're saying, and it just shows that we haven't been well consulted, and we need to be better consulted in this. So if there's no more discussion on the issue, I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? All those against? Motion carried. Thank you. I move on to 9.10, S11A, Instrument of Appointment and Authorisation, Planning Environment Act 1987. Mr. Ray.
Madam Mayor, through you, this is largely an administrative matter. There's been a requirement to update the instrument of authorisation and appointment under the Planning Environment Act due to staff changes. That's important as it empowers officers to exercise the required authority to carry out their duties within the legislative requirements. The recommendations before you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. Councillors, the recommendation is before us. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Australian, do I have a seconder? Councillor Cole. Councillor Australian.
No, nothing to add, Madam Mayor. It's purely administrative, as Mr. Ray said.
Thank you, Councillor Australian. Councillor Cole.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor. No, nothing to add.
No worries, thank you. If there's no more discussion on the matter, I'll put the recommendation to a vote. All those in favour? Motion carried, thank you. I move on to 9.11, Application of Common Seal of Council 2023. Mr. Ray.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, council is required to keep and maintain a common seal as per the Local Government Act. The seal is required to execute documents of significant importance, is to be used in accordance with local laws and can also be used as resolved by council from time to time. Additionally, council also delegates use of the common seal to its chief executive officer, and it's incumbent upon that CEO to provide an annual report to council on its use. And so the recommendations before you this evening, to amongst other things, to receive the list of documents sealed by the CEO under delegation during 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. Councillors, I have a recommendation in front of you. Do I have a mover for that one, please? Councillor Canady. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Hickey. Thank you. Councillor Canady.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's procedural and administrative, so nothing to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Canady. Councillor Hickey.
Thanks, Mayor. A very small device, but it has a fairly powerful impact. So we're very happy to second the recommendation.
Thank you. Any more discussion on the recommendation? If not, councillors, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favour? Motion carried. Thank you very much. 9.12, council attendance at the 2024 Australian Local Government Association National General Assembly. Mr. Ray.
Madam Mayor, thank you. And through you, the Australian Local Government Association is the national body that represents the interests of local government. And it organises a annual National General Assembly of local government, and it's held in Canberra generally. And this year it will be held in the first week of July. And the theme for this year's Congress is building community trust. And typically, council sends a delegation to attend and report back on matters discussed and resolved or debated at that assembly as well. As the cost is or will be greater than $2,500 per delegate, council resolution is required to approve expenditure in accordance with its support for council professional development policy. An assessment of attendance at the assembly against policy has been conducted, and it's included in the report, and it's recommended that council approve attendance and associated expenditure for the nominated councils. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. Councillor, there's a recommendation before you. Do I have a mover, please? Sorry. Mover, anyone, please? No one wants to go? Councillor Castrain, thank you very much. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Vogels, thank you. Councillor Castrain.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's certainly, I've been to a number of these National General Assemblies, and there's usually excellent speakers as well as opportunities for meeting councillors, mayors and councillors from right across 500 municipalities across Australia. So it's certainly it'll be a very interesting conference with building community trust. I think that's a great thing for the assembly, and I look forward to hearing how it goes.
Thank you, Councillor Castrain. Councillor Vogels.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, like Councillor Castrain said, it is a great opportunity to meet other councillors from all parts of the country, and I was happy to go up and do that myself. So probably really high on the list of council development is talking to people from completely different environments than we're from, and finding out that we've got a lot of similarities as well as differences. So I'm happy to second that.
Thank you. Any more comments on the recommendation before us, councillors? If not, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favour? Motion carried. Thank you. Other business, councillors, is there any other items you'd like to raise tonight? Nope, we're all good. Okay. Mr. CEO, is there any questions from online today?
Madam Mayor, there are no questions from the online streaming service.
Excellent. We have some people in the gallery today, which is very nice. Would you like to speak in the open forum? Does anyone want to have a discussion? Yep. All right. So come up to the lectern, introduce yourself. A maximum of 2 items or questions may be raised, and you have 5 minutes on time. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and councillors. Appreciated your acknowledgement of country at the start of the meeting to the Eastern Maar people and Wadawurrung people as well. And I was wondering if, as a council, we might...
Oh, sorry, can we ask your name? Sorry.
Oh, sorry, it's Tim Gunner.
Thank you, Tim.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
And I was wondering if we could extend that acknowledgement of country to the signage around the Shire. And as other shires have, as they enter, welcome to Corangamite, you might acknowledge the country they're entering in. And also divide it up around the Shire, because there's two distinct areas, so maybe they could be acknowledged as well. That would honour the people, would educate us as residents and our families or our children as well, to see whose country we're on. So that's one idea, to maybe pursue that. And also maybe to, as some of the tourist information, we could have a tourist area or a pamphlet on the Aboriginal Indigenous people of the area and highlight those major sites around the Shire. So the monument at the cemetery, the reconciliation area we have, I'm not sure of the wider ones we have. Some might be even massacre areas, whatever comes up in the Shire, we could acknowledge that around the Shire as well.
Lovely. Thank you.
And there's one other, it's different.
Yep, go
Okay.
for it. You can keep on read.
Also heard tonight that we're working towards net zero, which is great. And we're a heavy lifter in the Shire. We produce energy in gas and also wind. And as we transition from Port Campbell gas to Western Plains wind, looking at the houses that are going up around the place, and there's lots of fancy new houses going up, but I'm a bit aghast at their orientation and design that their net energy uses by just the way they're orientated on the blocks and the way they're designed. So I don't know if it's the permit or the power of the Shire to help or stipulate a few things like orientating the buildings towards the north so they pick up solar gain and heats the house in the winter, and to add eaves to houses to protect them from solar gain as well.
Yep.
And and more windows, less windows on the west and east and south sides, and more windows on the north side. So whether that's in your purview to be able to stipulate that as planning permits go forward or not. So 2 items, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gunner. Mr. CEO, are we directing the question?
I had to take the start of the response to your questions, and Mr. Gunner, thank you for your question. They're fantastic questions to have received. And October last year, Council adopted a Aboriginal Participation Engagement Plan. A key action in that plan was to look at or develop a signage policy with respect to naming Aboriginal places and so forth. So there's work to be commenced in that regard. I can also provide further detail following this evening's meeting to you as well, and there's further work to be led by Director Justine Lindley over the next few years to implement the actions in that plan. And Ms. Lynn is also happy to speak to you as well. In relation to your second question around sort of energy efficient homes, I'll invite either the Director or Manager, Mr. Moyne, to perhaps provide a short response.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, and thank you for your question, Mr. Gunner. So there is, in many cases, limited discretion or opportunity that council has around controlling building design. So in many situations, a single dwelling won't require a planning permit itself. So the design and construction standard of that dwelling has to comply with the National Construction Code, which requires currently a seven-star energy rating for that dwelling, and that takes into account building construction materials, orientation, glazing, even appliances and features that are in the building itself now. But having said that, when council deals with planning applications for subdivision and in other cases built form and development, there are policies in place that set by the state government that do deal with energy efficient design and orientation.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gunner. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak in the gallery? Mr. Mahon? No? Okay, no worries. There's no other business. I would just like to say a big shout out to the Timboon Bowls Club. They actually won Division 1 and 2 today in Warrnambool, so that's a great little achievement from the Timboon Bowls Club and all the participants there. I know they are celebrating down in Timboon, so it's a great achievement for them. So on that note, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Have a safe night and we'll catch you all next month. Thank you very much.